guys, welcome back to LS Vintage Design. How's everyone doing? I hope you're having an amazing day. Today I'm finally back with episode 2, opening your own antique booth, vintage booth. And we're going to talk about, again, where to find your items and inventory and pricing. And really, I think you're going to be surprised at what I tell you about this. But first, where do you find your items? You can find, you can find items at thrift stores, at estate sales, garage sales. You can ask family members who are downsizing if they would like to give you items. You can do a consignment type of thing with family in your own booth. You know, if a friend says, hey, I'm moving and I have my grandmother's vintage china, is that something you would want to sell? And you're like, sure. You could say, okay, we'll do 50-50, or because I'm going to price it, take it up there, sell it, and there's fees that come out, maybe do a 60-40. You know, whatever you are comfortable with. Remember though, when you work with friends and family on a consignment basis, it can put a strain on the relationship. But it's always an option for finding items for your booth. My favorite place is the thrift store. It's the best place. You have to look to get quality items. You have to make sure, you know, porcelain or china is not chipped. But you can find some really cool vintage items for pennies on the dollar and make a really good profit. If you go to estate sales on the last day, you can get 50% off. That's huge. And you might be going, yeah, but all the good stuff people want is gone. And that comes to inventory in your booth itself. If you are buying items for yourself, yes, you want to go on the first day. You want to get those items because that's what you want. You're into the hot new thing for your home, for your space, for your work, whatever. When you're selling in an antique booth, and everybody else in your mall, wherever you're selling at, has a lot of the hot items, why do you want to compete with people that are already established, maybe already have a customer base? Wouldn't you want to get items that are in demand but are maybe not the most popular, the hottest items? Those are the items you're going to find on the second and third day at estate sales for cheaper prices. They will still bring you a profit for multiple reasons. One, they're going to be something different. Besides the hottest items that a lot of the other booths have, you're going to have a different item. Number two, you're going to have paid less for that item. So don't go for the hottest items unless somebody's giving them to you or you find them at a thrift store. What else should you put in your booth? How do you pick your inventory? Well, like I just said, you go through wherever your booth is. You know how you went through and you saw what they sold and you thought, yes, I fit in here, or no, my stuff's just totally, the customers that I sell to wouldn't even come in this space. Okay, you're going to go back through the mall again. See what there's a lot of and see what there's not a lot of. And maybe try to fill that niche. Yes, that's the secret. Finding a niche in your mall where there's some of what people want, but there's not a lot. And maybe focus on one or two things in that niche. And you're going to build a reputation for being an expert on that. So say it's, and Pyrex is everywhere, but I'm going to use Pyrex. Okay, say nobody else in your mall or only like one or two other booths have just one or two little pieces of Pyrex. You start seeking out Pyrex. You become the Pyrex specialist. Now, I really wouldn't do Pyrex because Pyrex is oversaturated. But you find all the Pyrex you can. Set it up. You become the expert on Pyrex. So this could be brass figurines. This could be mini vintage items. This could be milk glass. Anything that There's a little bit of in your mall, but there's not a lot. I'm sorry, it's very cold in my house. It's in the 20s. We've been in the teens. Dallas is not used to this, guys. It's cold. So anyway, you find what is in demand, but there's not a lot of. That's where you're going to go. That's going to be your items in your booth. Then you go out and find it. Garage sales, thrift stores, estate sales, family and friends. Okay, so you've got your items and you're at home, because always price your items at home, because most malls require you to put your vendor number, vendor ID. They don't require an inventory, but I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to talk about inventory. It is imperative that you keep track of what you have and the price you're charging for it. And you're going to want to put the price. So you're going to have your ID number for wherever you are. You're going to have your inventory and your price. And a description, because somebody may go, I don't know what that is. And you're in an antique mall. Go ahead and put vintage in the description, or antique, because not everything in an antique mall is vintage or antique. And we'll talk about that in another episode of this series. Okay, so how are you going to do your inventory system? What are you going to do? How are you going to price this stuff? You have to price. To do your inventory first, let's talk about inventory. What makes sense in your brain? What is going to help you keep the most track of your items? What clicks? What do you understand? That's the inventory system you go with. Whether you just number everything from 1 till, and you keep going. Now that can get a little large after you're there for a while, and maybe you're on item 10,568. So you might want to change the system up then, but in the beginning, 1, 2, 3, that's fine. Does that make sense? What I do is, if I have art in my booth, it's art 1, art 2. I keep track of my inventory. So if I put a new piece of art in, I look to where I am in art, I'll see, oh, I'm on art 8. If I'm doing knickknacks, it's KN1, KN2. If I'm doing wall decor, it's wall 1, wall 2. I keep it super simple, but I keep it to where when I look at that inventory number, I know what it stands for. So it works in my brain. To you, that may be stupid, too much work, whatever. You have to pick an inventory system that works in your brain. Maybe you do the month you put it in there and how many things you put in that month. So maybe you put in FEB for February 1, FEB 2, FEB 3. That's an option as well. So inventory is a very personal matter. You're going to do whatever makes sense to your brain. Whatever works for your brain. That's what you're going to do. Hello, Sammy. Sammy got his jammies on because it's cold. Okay. Hi, baby. So inventory, you're going to do whatever works for you. Okay, next is price. When you're figuring out how to price your products, you're going to take into consideration how much your items cost. How much profit do you want to make on each individual item? What is the cost of your space? What is your rent cost? What was your time cost? What was your gasoline cost? All of those things figure into how you price your item. But besides that, you want to go walk around your mall again. You get a lot of exercise having an antique booth, believe it or not. And see what is being charged for similar items. Say you have vases. You're going to walk around and find crystal vases like the one you have. Similar size, similar weight, and most of the vases you'll find, and you might not even notice this, most of the vases are in a price range. You have the low end, say, at $34, and you have the high end at $45, okay? So you have to figure in that price range, where do you want to be? but you're gonna stay in that price range unless you have storage units full of stuff that you want to get rid of. Then you may go lower because you may sell more quantity. Maybe not. Maybe you're just selling your stuff for less and not making as much. That would suck. Do you want to go higher? Sure, you can go higher if you want. You want to create this illusion of elite. If you're paying more, it's different than everybody else's. It's a step above, and you can do that, but you might not make as many sales. Again, a lot of setting up an antique booth is research, comparison, but it's also what are you comfortable with and what makes sense to you. I want to be competitive. I want my booth every pay period to make money. I want my booth to be competitive. So I walk around and just get an idea. I don't copy anybody. My stuff is very different. Sometimes I can't find competitive prices or the same thing in my space, my mall, but I can online. So I kind of go, okay, and figure it that way. And that may be something you have to do. Maybe you're offering a product in your antique mall, like, let's say you're in an antique mall that doesn't have a lot of furniture and you're bringing in the antique furniture. Your mall's not known for antique furniture. So are you at a disadvantage or an advantage? It's hard to say. You might have to do a little extra advertising. Advertising and setup is going to be our next episode in this series, which will be next week, next Friday. So when you're pricing, when you're inventorying, when you're doing pricing, you have to do what you're comfortable with, factoring in, are you making a profit or not? Because if you're losing money, that's just terrible. So how do you price? Okay, you've gone through your mall, you've seen the range, and we'll keep the 35 to 45 range, okay? Now, let's say you're pricing this picture. How much did this picture cost me at an estate sale? Well, I paid, let's say, $10 for this picture. And in the antique mall, the prices are $35 to $45. First, I'll look at condition. Oh, it's in great shape. Okay, perfect. So that's going to put me at the high end of whatever price range I want. But color, is this a color people would want? Right now, yes, it's a matte gold finish. This is a very sought after color in brass, so why not in a vintage MCM aluminum picture? Okay, so far we're trending high. I paid $10. How much profit do I need to be successful? Well, you want to make your $10 back. Okay, so there's our base price. Then how much profit? Do you want to make 50% profit on something inexpensive, but that's kind of different? You can. So 50% of 10 would be 5. Do I think I could actually double my money on this? Yes, I do. So I would say, okay, $20, but I'm still under the range of other aluminum pictures in my antique mall. And my picture has an advantage. It's an in-demand color and it's in excellent shape. Okay, so I'm doubling my profit, but I also want to add on money for my booth rent. Okay, so I take my booth rent, and let's say your booth rent's $100. There's 4 weeks in a month. So every week you need to make $25. And let's say you're putting 5 items in. So out of those 5 items, you have more items in your booth, but you're just going to say, okay, this month, these 5 items, I want to make my rent. So that's $5. Okay? So $25, 5 items. I've divided the 25 by 5. It's $5 each item to cover rent. So I have my base price, which is 10. I have my profit, which I'm doubling on this because I can. You can't always do that. but on this one I can't. So that's 20. Then I want to make $5 of my rent back with these 5 items. I'm trying to make a quarter back of my rent with 5 items this week in my booth. So I'll add 5, so it's 25. And then I add in my time and gas when I went to an estate sale. So I have to remember, and I always take notes. Take notes. I always write my estate sales down, what time, what order I go in. I figure out how far they are from the house, how much gas did I use, and what was my time worth. Now, on your time, you have to remember, some people will say, oh, my time's worth $45 an hour all by itself. Well, I get that. But you have to break it down by estate sale, by how long you stayed there. It's it's a lot of math, believe it or not. So my time is worth $55 an hour. That's what I charge to come in and decorate a space in your home. So $55 for 5 antique sales. Okay, so I'm going to divide my time into 11 equal parts. But maybe it wasn't equal. Maybe 2 I stayed out a long time, and 3 I just kind of ran in or out. So 55 is $11 in estate sale, but 3 of them I didn't really spend that much time at. So I'm going to say those were each 3, 9. Okay, so 9 from 55 is 48. No, 47, 46. 46 for the 2 remaining. So my time for the 2 remaining, 46 divided by 2, is $23. So my time was 23, but I can't add 23 to one item. But how many items did I get there? Oh, I bought 7 items. So that was like $3.50 an item for my time. Okay, so I'll take $3.50. So we were at 25, and I'm going to add $3.50. That's $28.50. Well, I've covered my rent. I've covered my time. Gas. What was my gas? I write down my gas before I start going to estate sales. I write down how many gallons I have left after. And I figure out price per gas with the going gas rate. Okay, so let's say we're at 28, and let's say my gas was 8, because I have a little car, very economical. So now my price is 36. Okay, so I have all my gas in, and then your gas, your time, all of that. So we're at 28. Let's round up to 30. I always round up to the nearest whole number, like 30, 40, 45, you get. Okay, so we're at 30. Now, the only other thing is the percentage that your mall takes of all of your sales. So let's say your mall takes 10%, which is high, but for math purposes, my math skills, we're going to say your mall will take 10% of each item sold. So I'm going to take 30. I want to get $30, right? I want to clear 30. So I'm going to say $30 times 10% is $3. So I'm going to price this at $33 times 10% will take $3.30. That'll bring me just a little bit under. So I'm going to go up again. $34. That's $3.40. That'll bring me at 30, a little over 30 once they take their portion. So my total for this vase, when I add in all my costs associated, the profit I want, the booth rent I want to make, and the giving back the 10% that the mall's going to take, I would price this at $34. Some people just price stuff willy-nilly, and you can do that. But when I started this, and now even more since, I lost my husband, it's very important that I make a profit, but that I account for all the expenses associated with whatever I put in my booth. That I am making 100%. that I am making enough money to cover the cost of my booth, make a profit. So, guys, next week we are going to talk about marketing for your antique booth, and we're going to talk about setup. And we will actually be in my booth next week to discuss placement in the booth. What are some tips and tricks that work and some that don't work? Thanks for being here today, guys. I'll see you next week. On Monday, I'm going to start redoing a vintage humidor where they stored cigars. This would be a great piece for a man cave, a living space, a business, and I'm going to bring you along for tips and tricks when you have to redo the vintage or antique furniture because it's just too far gone in its original state. Guys, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget, give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. What do you think is the hardest part so far, in your opinion, of what we've talked about of opening an antique booth or a vintage booth in an antique mall? So thanks for being here today, guys. I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.